I'd like to start by talking a little bit about who the 6 to 9-year-old child is. What is their nature? What are their needs? And then a little bit about how we respond to that, how the lower elementary environment is structured to best meet those needs and those characteristics. Okay, so children in this age range really display a wide range of ability levels, and this is very normal. It's a different, children develop at different developmental rates, depends on maturity. So you might have one 6-year-old who is just beginning to read phonetically, and another 6-year-old who's reading novels fluently. And we have really found that this wide gap usually starts to come together at around age 9. And the 6 to 9-year-old, three-year program of the lower elementary class provides us with a lot of flexibility to be able to respond to those different ability levels. We also group our students according to their abilities. So one math lesson might have first graders and second graders in it, or a geometry lesson might have second and third, and so forth. We really want to group our students according to what they need. Children at around age 6 really enter a new phase of development. Montessori called this the second plane of development. And one major characteristic of it is that their cognitive capabilities just really expand. Their imagination is much more active. They want to be creative, and they're ready for the answers to a lot of those why questions that they ask. They're ready for more abstract causes. So our job in the lower elementary room is to appeal to that desire to be creative and to be imaginative. And one role of the lower L teacher is really to be a storyteller and to help to make accessible to our young students some of these more abstract ideas that they really want. And I'm going to give you an example of how we do that in just a few minutes. These children are highly social. They are generally much more interested in being with their friends than in being with you. So we strive to channel that social nature in a positive way in the classroom. Children work individually, but they also often work in pairs, in small groups. The lessons are grouped, as I said, more often, much more so than in primary, where almost everything is done individually. And also, because it is a 3-year classroom, and we've got this mixed age range, you've got this wonderful dynamic of the older children helping the younger children, being role models to the younger children, and the younger children looking up to the older ones. There's a lot of opportunity for mentoring and so forth that really is in line with this characteristic. And finally, these children still need to move. Even though they're not 3 anymore, nobody wants to see a 7-year-old bound to a desk all day doing paper and pencil work. And the activities that we have in the classroom allow them that, both in terms of fine motor movement, we've got a lot of hands-on materials, and also bigger freedom of movement in the room. They can choose where they would like to sit, they can choose whether they want to work at a table, on the floor, and so forth. So now I'd like to move on to show you 2 materials, one from math and one from language in the lower L curriculum. Now you might wonder, why are we doing math and language when we have geometry, geography, biology, botany, history? We've got a very rich curriculum. And the reason is that at this age, your child's math and language skills are really the core and the foundation of what they need to master. These are the skills that are going to allow them to move forward and excel in the upper elementary and high school years. So my first example has to do with teaching children the concept of multiples in math. A multiple, of course, is a number that can be evenly divided by another number. So 3, 6, 9, these are multiples of 3. But we wouldn't want to define a multiple to a 7-year-old in terms of division because they're not versed well enough in division to be able to grasp it in that way. So we wouldn't want to do that. So how else could we do it? Before I get to that, let me show you a more typical way that schools approach this topic. So this is not what we would do in our classes here. So children in a class might get a lesson, they're all being presented with a worksheet, something like this, where you have the concept defined as skip counting numbers or count by numbers, and then you've got a graphic to stand for how they are counting by groups. You've got your nickels, 5, 10, 15, 20, dimes, dozens of eggs. And then there are examples of multiples of each of those. Some guided practice might include pictures like these, and then the students need to find the first 3 multiples based on the pictures that are given. And then they might move on to something like this. It's a little hard to read. The instruction reads, give the first 9 multiples of each number. And so they've got 10 numerals there that they need to find the multiples for. So a class might do this all at once. It's paper and pencil work. They're all working at it at the same time. And incidentally, these examples were a little hard to find for me. I went online and I wanted to find some, say, 2nd grade multiples examples of the types of things that are commonly used. And I found that the reason why they were hard to find is that multiples is a topic that's usually lumped in with factors and fractions, which is 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade work. And I thought it was really interesting because we do multiples. We introduce multiples in 1st or 2nd grade. And the reason we can do that is because of how Montessori takes what might be considered a more complex or more abstract topic, and we break it down in a very step-by-step sequential way with hands-on materials. So let me show you how. So what you're seeing here is the short 5 chain. Students who come from our primary class would be familiar with this material. They would know how to carry it, how to bring it to a table or on a mat on the floor, and how to count it, and how to label it with the number labels that you see. So they would know all that. But in elementary, what we do is we use this basis that they already know to point out the new point, the new thing, that these numbers actually have a special name. And that each of these numbers, for example, the 10, that it actually contains 5 2 times. And they can see that. There are 2 5 bars that lead up to 10. The 15 contains 5 3 times. 20 is made up of 5 4 times. And that each of these has a special name, and that name is that they are multiples of 5. So we show them, using a basis that they're already familiar with, 5 is a multiple of 5 because it contains 5 1 time. 10 is a multiple of 5, it contains 5 2 times, and so forth. And at this point, the teacher would write that little slip on the top to isolate and highlight the vocabulary. So this is just the beginning. And independent work with this would include counting perhaps all the bead chains, so the 6 chain, the 7 chain, the 8 chain, all the way up to 10, and labeling and perhaps making their own title labels, multiples of 4, multiples of 6. And then we add a next level of challenge. So here we have multiples of 4, where students build the multiples, but this time with bead bars. The numbers aren't all there for them. They have to put it out there. And they have to come up with what the multiples are. They're a little hard to read, but they're all labeled 4, 8, 12, 16, so on. And they can do this with all the multiples from 1 through 10 and beyond if they're so ambitious. And then the teacher would indicate one day, if they put out 2 sets, that we can discover common multiples. So they can see that 2 and 3 have 6 and 12 and 18 as common multiples. Because we do so much work like this, our students do far less drill type of work. So as a parent, you would see much less paperwork coming home because so much of it is with these materials and it's very effective. So there's less repetition that needs to happen. So just to move on, we also have similarly wonderful materials for introducing multi-digit multiplication. This girl is using the checkerboard. Long division. This girl is about to share out her beads to do some division. And fractions. Some boys set up a basic addition problem, 2/4 plus 1/2 equals a whole, and then they proved it underneath. Okay, so that's our math example. So let me move on to language. And the example from language that I would like to show you is teaching you about parts of speech. Now I know that is going to get you very excited because grammar, I'm sure, was everybody's favorite subject. No, it possibly has, if it's still taught at all, grammar possibly has the worst reputation for being a dull subject. And perhaps this might be the kind of thing that you are accustomed to seeing. So this is a pretty standard type of worksheet focusing on nouns. Rewrite each sentence, fill in each blank with a noun from the box below, so puppy, beach, movie, Julie, boy. Remember, a noun can be a person, place, or thing. Now, I think it's worth asking whether this fill-in-the-blank activity actually increases a child's understanding of what a noun is. Is it interesting? Does it provide an opportunity for self-expression? Is there anything that the child can really do, get his hands on? And is there an opportunity for the noun, or is the noun differentiated with any other part of speech, such as a verb? Now this is one way in which we cover parts of speech in the lower elementary class. This is a simplified, so all you people who know about grammar boxes, this is a simplified look at the steps that we lead a child through with a Montessori grammar box. And there are many grammar boxes, and they cover all 8 parts of speech. This one is for the verb. And what a child would do with this is firstly bring all the materials. There's 3 different boxes and different things he needs to get, so there's lots of movement, lots of organization, lots of things to set up. He chooses a card and reads the sentence. Then he makes the sentence with the little cards. And then he acts out the sentence. So he got up and got that piece of paper and would crumple it up because that's the command that the sentence told him about. So so far he's got a little bit of self-expression, and he has an opportunity to, and we have an opportunity to observe his comprehension of what he has read. Next, he goes through a series of questions that he knows from experience with grammar boxes to identify the parts of speech in this sentence. So what is the action? What did I do? I crumpled. And he would symbolize the verb with that red triangle. And what's the red circle, I'm sorry. And what is the thing? What did I crumple? The paper. What is the object in the sentence? That's a noun. That's going to be symbolized with the black triangle. Now, Elementary students who come from our primary program are familiar with these symbols already because they're introduced in super fun ways in the primary class, which I think often astounds parents. You're doing parts of speech with my 5-year-old? Like, that just seems kind of strange. But they're very fun and very creative and very interactive. And we build on that here. We build on it even insofar as creating and having in the classroom 3-dimensional figures for the parts of speech. And we tell stories about these parts of speech and these figures because every time we do that, we're appealing to the child, to that imaginative and creative 6 to 9-year-old, and it's going to help them remember what a noun is and remember how it's different from a verb and how it's different from an adjective and so forth. And you can see that the article, the, and the adjective white are also triangles, but they're little triangles. They're added information. They belong with the noun, but they're part of the phrase. They'll, over time, with repetition, they'll begin to see that is a noun phrase. So, but the noun and the verb are dominant. They're the big guys in the sentence. Okay. So I'll just recap. Lower elementary, what do we do here? We have effective hands-on learning with these fabulous materials and great stories and great follow-up work. Oh, I didn't mention that with the grammar box. You can ask me in the question period if you want to know what they might do beyond laying out these sentences. Small groups based on ability. The multi-age 3-year program. So they come in at 6 and they spend 3 years with the same teacher. That teacher gets to know them very well and can really individualize, and that teacher has a lot of flexibility to meet the child's strengths and weaknesses. Lessons that appeal to the child's imagination. Lots of opportunities for movement and for getting their hands busy. And then the invitation to repeat, to explore, and to be creative. So, thank you very much.